Hello, everyone, and welcome to EVTN News. This is a special presentation. Actually, it's a regular presentation, but um, we have some interesting stuff going on in the church, and every week there's news and there's new schisms, or at least heresies, whatever you want to call it. We'll start out today with Belgium, but obviously we'll cover in a little bit more detail the German Synod because they just met. And also looking ahead, the, the Pope Francis is going to Kazakhstan. And you know who is in Kazakhstan is Bishop Athanasius Schneider. And they're already ramping up for that. The Vatican's already ramping up for his visit to Kazakhstan by discussing the Abu Dhabi document, which Bishop Schneider strongly disagreed with. And the rest, there were a number of Kazakhstan bishops who also were not fans of the document where it said that all religions, God wills all religions. And so that is something to watch for this week. But we are going to start at Belgium. There is yoga in a Belgium church. Every Wednesday of the past months of July and August, St. James Church in Antwerp, Belgium offered yoga classes for its parishioners. The pews of the central nave near the altar were removed specifically in order to allow the participants to have ample area at their disposal for the sacred space yoga. It is likely to say that these yoga classes had the full support of the parish priest and the local bishop, Johann Bonny. So there you go, yoga in a church. You know, I think that yoga is probably more common in churches than people realize. I've seen it advertised in church bulletins, and yeah, so hopefully not one near you. The next article is just an observation. The state of the church. A Los Angeles convent was turned into a maternity home. The 18-bedroom residence is Harvest Home's second in the Los Angeles area and is being leased to the Archdiocese from the Archdiocese for $100 a month for a room. It is a maternity home for single mothers, and it used to be a convent. So, you know, it used to be for nuns, and now it's for women who potentially made bad decisions. And you know, I don't know. I'm not saying this to criticize anyone. Just kind of showing the state of the church. Look, they have all these properties. How many more convents are going to close? I don't even know that I'd call them convents anymore because these nuns, they don't wear habits. I mean, there are some that do, but some of these social justice nuns, they're mostly in their 70s and 80s. They don't wear habits. And I've heard that some nuns have apartments, and so they're basically just like they're living just like lay people. I mean, I guess nuns are lay people, but they're living a life like they're no different from anyone else, and that's a problem, right? Because if you have a vocation to the religious life and you just want to just live like you've been living before, and give yourself a label, call yourself sister. All right. I mean, you can call me brother John, the son of thunder, I guess. I mean, I don't see my life as very much different than like a, I do see it much different than the social justice nuns, but like living my day-to-day life, I mean, these nuns have jobs. You know, they dress just like regular people. And they actually have, some of these social justice nuns have heretical beliefs. So just kind of a little bit of a tangent on the social justice nuns. In France, the FSSP celebrated its last Mass in Saint Andre Church in Grenoble on August 28th. The diocese did not dialogue with the fraternity before Bishop de Caramel chased it out. I mean, it sounds like caramel. Caramel? Anyway, he was since promoted to a loose. So the bishop received a promotion after pushing out the FSSP. Don't think that it can't happen. Supich did it in Chicago. He shut out the institute. The FSSP can get shut out at any time. That's what we're dealing with. Chicago faithful, Catholic faithful are organizing a pilgrimage to Washington, D.C. later this month to express gratitude for the revival of the traditional Latin Mass and as a public act of sorrow over what they call devastating new restrictions on the celebration of the Old Mass. The National Summorum Pontificum pilgrimage for the restoration of the Latin Mass will take place on Saturday, September 17th. That's this Saturday at 9 a.m., beginning at the Cathedral of St. Thomas More in Arlington and ending just over 5 miles away, or a 2 hours walk, at the Cathedral of St. Matthew the Apostle in Washington. Hopefully they have quite a few, and hopefully they generate a lot of attention. If you're in that area, certainly that's something to consider. And hopefully they have a successful event. At least, I know that it'd be hard for Cardinal Gregory to accompany these people, but hopefully they can at least network with other people and find good places for the SSPX. There's an interesting story on the pillar. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it, but it talks about how 7 years ago, Ukrainian Orthodox Archbishop Ihor Eschenko began a path that led his Orthodox diocese into full communion with the Catholic Church, even amid schisms and fractures among Ukrainian Orthodox believers. So that's very interesting, how an Orthodox Archbishop returns to Rome, as well as his parishioners. So very good. Good to see that. And if you're interested, the link to that news story, as well as and all the other news stories I talk about today, that's in the description of the video. On August 28th, a number of women seemingly attempted to join a priest in consecrating the Eucharist during Mass in St. Martin's Parish in Switzerland, prompting local Bishop Joseph Bonnermain of Chur to open a canonical investigation into the case. One of the women, reportedly parish leader Monica Schmidt, uttered the words of consecration with the celebrating priest. So there you go, an invalid Mass. I think it is. I think that's invalid. Okay, so Bishop Joseph Bonnermain, otherwise known as Bishop Calvin Klein, he's been a longtime supporter of LMNOP, and I personally believe the only reason he opened a canonical investigation into the case is because this became public and it was an outrage to certain people. However, if you see the photo of the celebration, there is also what looks like a deacon wearing a rainbow stole. Great. Huh. Not surprising? Surprising? No, it's not surprising. Also not surprising, another cardinal talking about LMNOP. Brazil's Leonardo Ulrich Steiner, who was made a cardinal by Pope Francis last week. He answered in regards to he was discussing non-Christian LMNOP couples. He said, "How do we say if it is a sin if they do not live the Christian faith in terms of LMNOP? So how do we say LMNOP is not a sin or is a sin if they do not live the Christian faith? This is not about a fundamentally moral question. This is about a life. This is a question about a son of God." Weird that he didn't make weird that he didn't make that statement gender neutral. But I mean, another cardinal supporting LMNOP. I mean, they have McElroy, very rotten, and I don't know. I mean, how many of these cardinals are actually LMNOP? I think it's safe to ask. How many of them are LMNOP? How many of them are living lifestyles that contradict the Catholic faith? think that's a fair question to ask. Speaking of McElroy, the Diocese of San Diego recently published its synodal synthesis. Criticisms there were criticisms, which is interesting. The criticisms include outrage at the responsibility of bishops in the cover-up of clerical sexual abuse cases, as well as the compromising of Catholic moral teaching on matters of LMNOP issues and the slaughter of the unborn. As to the comments of the synodal dialogues on the bishops of the United States, participants were highly negative. Many blame the bishops for the egregious errors of the clergy sexual abuse crisis. They think that the episcopacy has contributed enormously to a culture of clericalism. Well, it's clericalism if your good buddies are getting promoted, if McCarrick's good friends are getting promoted. That's clericalism. Many participants expressed the view that church doctrine is quite clear on debated issues, but the church's current leadership has intentionally obscured that teaching on LMNOP issues and other topics, including the slaughter of the unborn. These Catholics raise concerns that Pope Francis has introduced a corrosive ambiguity into the heart of Catholic moral doctrine. They are highly critical of Bishop McElroy for the same reason. Participants who share this viewpoint worry that Catholic doctrine lies on a slippery slope in these days and propose that sharpening the line between the church and secular society would have a reinvigorating effect for the Catholic community. So this is in San Diego's diocesan synodal report. I guess McElroy was too busy in Rome to redact all this information, because I'm shocked that this was released. I really am. I mean, I know that Catholics do not like rotten bishops, but actually publishing it in the synodal report, I mean, that's surprising, given that McElroy supposedly rigged his listening sessions during the McCarrick. You know how there was the McCarrick crisis, and they called it the abuse crisis, and all this. It certainly was. And all these dioceses had listening sessions, and San Diego's was very rigged. They didn't want Catholics to speak. They didn't want them to ask any questions, and understandably so. I mean, apparently Vigano says that Bishop, now Cardinal McElroy, is part of the McCarrick network, and we see him rising up the ranks just like the other ones. So apparently the Bishop of Evansville, Indiana, expanded the Latin Mass community. So Father Ryan Hildebrand on Twitter said the weekly Vetus Ordo Mass in Evansville has outgrown its space. My bishop is giving us room to grow. The announcement was made to the TLM crowd last Saturday and will be announced at the relevant Novus Ordo locations this Sunday. Although everyone knows about it now, I'll wait until then to post more details. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's nice. However, I didn't think about this until after I didn't think about this until just now. It's entirely possible that they're moving to a gym on their way to being phased out. Now, there's a lot more space in the gym. But do you want your Latin Mass in a gym or a church? I'll have to see. I'll have to follow up on that if I can. See what's going on there. All right, the Chinese underground church. After the Vatican-China deal of 2018, whose text remains secret, in practice, the underground Catholics were asked by the Vatican to join the Patriotic Association, which was declared by the Holy See as no longer separated from Rome, and a legitimate expression in China of the one and only Catholic Church. The Vatican explained that an underground church has lost its reason to exist, and there was now only one unified Catholic Church in China, effectively selling out Chinese Catholics to the communist government. The Vatican is not happy about the existence of the conscientious objectors, namely the underground church, and does not encourage their position in any way, yet it maintains that they are Catholics in good standing, and in the Vatican guidelines of 2019, that some in the Vatican now regard as unwise and damaging the relations with the Chinese Communist Party, is asked the Chinese government treat them with respect. So the Vatican doesn't like that there was a document in 2019 that asked the Chinese government to treat the underground Catholics with respect. The Chinese underground church is sort of like the SSPX. There's just not much more to say about that. Think about the similarities. I think there's a lot of similarities there. All right, now we're getting to the German bishops. They held their synodal meeting last week, and there is a lot of heresy. So the first text was actually rejected. The German Synod's 30-page document against sexual morality, called Living in Successful Relationships, received a 61% approval among the bishops, and thus failed to gain the necessary two-thirds majority, a requirement for the passage of any resolution. So it was 61%, which is, I mean, it's certainly a majority, but it's not a two-thirds majority. They were really upset about it. No, I mean, some of the bishops. Among the laity, the text had received the two-thirds majority. I guess there were lay people there also, but only the bishops' votes counted. But who cares? Bring in lay people, bring in non-Catholics, have them vote. See what they want to do, because they're not part of the church, and I don't know. Anyway, the document wanted to redefine the church's sexual teaching and claimed that LMNOP activity, also expressed in sexual acts, is not a sin and not to be judged as intrinsically bad. Okay, so a lot of the rotten bishops voted for it. One of the two presidents of the Synodal Way, Bishop Georg Batzing, expressed personal disappointment that a blocking minority of the bishops prevented the document pushing for changes to the church's teaching on LMNOP, gender identity, and other sins from being officially adopted. Batzing said the rejected text was nonetheless a product of the Synodal Way, and therefore we will take it to the level of the Universal Church when we are in Rome in November for the ad limina visit, when we are going about preparing the World Synod with the Continental Bishops' Conferences in January. Batzing said he would seek to implement the text in his own diocese of Limburg. He said, I know several bishops will do similarly. So they don't even care about the vote. They're going to do it anyway. They're going to implement this in their diocese. And at that point, your diocese has gone into schism, right? Your bishop has lost the faith. And if your priests go along with this, your priests have lost the faith as well. So much for obedience, right? What about blind obedience? Should the priests in this diocese have blind obedience to a bishop who has rejected the Catholic faith? So, what can you do? You can go to the SSPX, find a different church, because these priests are no longer priests of the Catholic Church. Very obvious. He's going to take it to Rome in November, so that'll be interesting. Not really, because we know what's going to happen. He's going to go to Rome. He's going to meet with Pope Francis, and then he's going to say after the meeting, Pope Francis supports everything I'm doing. And then the Vatican won't issue any statement. That's exactly what is going to happen. We've seen it before, and that's the thing. Will this wake people up? If they're not already woken up, this won't. Because we had Pachamama, we had changes to capital punishment, divorce and remarriage. That's a huge doctrine of the Catholic faith, and Pope Francis seemingly has eliminated that. So, I don't know. Just continuing down that road. There's not going to be, this is a drastic change. This is a drastic impact. Not impact, but this is pretty drastic. And Pope Francis moves slowly. But they're both moving in the same direction. That's the thing. That's the key. Anyway, 82% of German bishops and 92% of, the laity voted on September 9th in favor of a resolution against the exclusion of women from the sacramental ministry. Only 10 bishops voted against it. 45 bishops in favor, 5 abstained, 10 voted against it. This was necessary in order to avoid another embarrassing rejection, as happened the day before with the resolution on LMNOP. The bishops inserted a passage calling on Pope Francis to change John Paul II's 1994 Ordinatio Sacerdotalis, which states that women cannot validly receive ordination. That would include women deacons. The resolution suggests that in the future, gender should no longer decide on the allocation of ministries. This is heresy. Anyone who supports it is a heretic. Very obvious. And, it's coming to a diocese near you. It's starting in Germany. There are bishops in the United States who support this. They don't necessarily say it publicly, but I can think of a few. Can you think of a few? Oh, and we're getting into what I've been talking about for a while, the McCarrick trial. So we do have an update, thankfully. Just more than a year after ex-Cardinal Theodore McCarrick was arraigned in a Massachusetts criminal court on assault and battery charges, proceedings continue on without an imminent conclusion. Another status update in the case came and went in Dedham District Court on September 8th without any progress, and another continuance to November 1st. So, this is good that a media outlet is reporting on this. Delay, delay, delay. That's the tactic of lawyers. And that's what's going to continue in this McCarrick case. However, I guess not however, but in addition, I would say there's some cardinals, bishops, priests in the United States who are happy about this delay, because they're associated with McCarrick and they don't want any information released on them. It would be ideal for this case, McCarrick, to, they're waiting for him to die. That's just what's happening. They don't want this information. They don't want any information coming out about McCarrick. We could see what kind of shockwaves happened the first time in 2018. And, a lot of information has since been released, but there's still plenty of information outstanding. Plenty of information we would like to know about. And that's just not the case. And we may not know about it for a while. That's why Cardinal Gregory was appointed to Washington, D.C. to sweep as much under the rug as he could, and he did such a good job. He got the Cardinals' red hat. Solesmes Abbot Geoffrey Kemlin of France asked Pope Francis during an audience last week. Was it last week? I think so. Yeah, it was. How to implement Traditionis Custodes. Kemlin told a media outlet that Francis replied, "I am 2,000 kilometers from your monastery. You are a monk. Discernment is what monks do. I don't say yes or no to you, but I let you discern and make your decision." Regarding vocations, Kemlin said, being a conservative Novus Ordo monastery, Solesmes didn't experience the turpitude of the post-council period. However, the number of vocations started going downhill in the 1990s. In 1995, Solesmes had 25 novices compared to 4 today, but this does not worry Kemlin. All right. So he's not worried about the number of vocations declining. That's great. So anyway, Pope Francis is less rigid about the Latin Mass. Well, maybe to a guy who said the FSSP should just cave to Francis' demands. Traditionis Custodes was necessary. But Pope Francis gives a very Pope Francis answer. I will not, whenever someone asks him about the McCarrick scandal, about veganist comments, he said, I will not say one word. When this guy asked, this Novus Ordo abbot asked him about Traditionis Custodes, he said, I'll let you discern and make your decision. Well, guess what? He already says the Novus Ordo. And he has already been on record supporting Traditionis Custodes. So what's going to be his decision? So what did he say? Okay. What date was this? June 28th. This guy is 43. He does understand. He said he does understand Traditionis Custodes. He said Francis wants to remember the unity of the liturgy in the church. And Kemlin cannot know. But he agrees with Francis that under the pretext of being able to choose liturgical reform, we could choose in the magisterium and leave aside the Second Vatican Council. As a consequence, Kemlin attacks Pope Francis. He said, I understood less for having allowed the FSSP to continue with the Latin Mass. He said, this decision seems to mean there are two separate churches, one that celebrates in the renewed form and another with groups that use the ancient form. I would agree with that. It means there are two separate churches. And I think that's going to continue. If you look at the German schism, I think that's going to continue. Look at the Latin Mass versus the Novus Ordo. Do you want your clown Mass? Not all Novus Ordos are clown Masses. But there's plenty of liturgical abuse. You could go to any Novus Ordo and probably find liturgical abuse. Is it liturgical abuse for girl altar boys? Is it liturgical abuse for lay readers? Lay lectors? Is it liturgical abuse for the priest to freestyle prayers? I don't know. You have to answer those questions yourself. But for now, we have EVTN News. And I don't see any comments today on the live chat. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I do. What do you expect? It's Germany. They gave us the Protestant revolt after all. Several minutes behind. Well, you'll catch up eventually. My elderly parents attended their last Holy Mass in a bank before they died, before Benedict XVI's time. Yeah, so there you go. I noticed in some dioceses that allow altar girls, they don't have as many priestly vocations. Oh, what a shock. What a surprise, right? They also don't have a lot of boy altar servers. Well, what was the point of girl altar boys? What was the point? Anyway, do you stand with the FSSP or do you stand with this Novus Ordo abbot? I don't know. And he said declining vocations. Well, we haven't suffered from declining vocations. Oh, really? Yeah, you did. Oh, well, we're not concerned. Of course you're not. Because you do everything you can in your power to say, oh, there's nothing wrong here. Plug your ears. Nothing wrong. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything wrong. There we go. FSP provides me the Latin Mass. Yep, and they're going to continue to say the Latin Mass. Anyway, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. This has been EVTN News. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.